Hi folks, in this video I'd like to walk you through all the new features in TileForge version 1.1.0, and nearly all the new features are located in the floor tile creator screen, which you can access with this button here in the top right. And I'm going to click here. So this is the interface you'll be using to procedurally generate floor tiles, which you can then use either in TileForge or in MapForge or your favorite virtual tabletop program or an image editor like Photoshop if you want to continue working on something. So the way it works is you've got a live preview here, but it's kind of small. And anytime you click on any control here, you're going to see a zoomed in view like this. I'm going to click on Basic Tile, and we see it up close. It goes away after 2 seconds. You can also click on the live preview to bring it up again. And I'm now holding down the space bar. As long as the space bar is down, it'll stay zoomed in. As soon as I let go of the space bar, it goes away. Alright, so this first flagstone effect, you can start out with none if you want, and let me show you how this works. I'll bring in a texture. Right. So I'm going to bring in this texture. And here, it used to be, this label used to say texture scale, and I've changed it to say iterations because that's really what it's determining. See how it repeats the texture 4 times because I've got this set to 4. If I change this to a 3, it repeats 3 times, and so on. I'm just going to use a single iteration for the whole floor tile. And the size of this floor tile is determined by these 2 controls: the dimension in grid squares and the resolution, how many pixels per grid square. The default is 140, which is great for Roll20, for example. For this demo, I'm going to increase that to 180 and just hit the Enter key or the Tab key to make that take effect. So now, this is the first flagstone effect, basic tile. This is best for modern day maps or sci-fi maps. And there's actually 2 ways to use this. This is by default a very thin bevel that's applied, a thin shading on this side, highlight on this side. But if you shift click on here, you'll get a wider bevel, a bit deeper. The other effects are weathered and worn, which is pretty slick looking. It's one of my favorites. Then we have cracked flagstones. And the way this is generated is there's a whole bunch of, like, maybe 16 or 20 different unique tiles, and they're randomly placed when you generate the tile. Now this one looks pretty good, no obvious repeats. If I want to regenerate the randomly drawn overlay here, just click on cracked flagstones again, and now it's a different layout. Here I've got 2 repeating tiles, so I don't like this one. I'm going to regenerate that again until you find something you're happy with. The next flagstone effect is chipped 3D flagstones. Looks like this. And the last one is grout. Now you can change the dimension, like right now it's a 4x4. I can make it a 6x6. All the way up to 10x10. It actually gets so large you can't see it all at once. So I'll bring that back down. Notice I can just click away that 2-second preview if I don't want it. Okay, so far I've been making normal floors, or uniform, in this case using a single texture. You can also make checkerboard pattern floors. Here it's using a texture alternating with a color, because I've got source B set to color. I'm going to change that now. Let me find better textures for this. Okay, so here I've selected black marble and white marble to make a classic checkerboard floor with a basic tile flagstone effect. Looks pretty good. But actually the white marble is repeating 4 times, so it turns out to have an identical texture on every white block. So I'm going to change that. Change it to, that still has a repeat. This looks good. Now with either floor style, either uniform or checkerboard, you can turn on variable cell shading. What that does is it's going to make some of these grid squares a little lighter, some a little darker, randomly. Each time you click on the live preview, it's going to re-randomize that shading. And this is kind of subtle. And if you want, you can do a wider gamut so it's not so subtle. And depending on the textures that you're using, it'll determine whether or not you use this wider gamut. For a checkerboard floor like this, I wouldn't want to use it. So I'm going to turn that off. Now the next thing I want to show you, I'm going to go back to using colors instead of textures. Say a gray for source A. Actually, I'll just make a uniform floor. Okay. You can apply textures to these basic flat colors. Right now it's set to none, but I could add it. I could set it to rough stone, or very rough stone. And just for kicks, I even added a wood grain texture. So I'm going to turn off that effect so that I can show you how the grunge works. Right now we're set to none. If I add light grunge, it starts to get a bit darker. Medium grunge, and heavy grunge. Now to any of these, if you shift click on it, you can also add, well, let me show you. Start with nothing. Shift click and it adds this extra layer of grime on there. And now that the grime is enabled, you can combine it with the other grunge effects. So there's a total of 7 settings you can combine, you can achieve with these. So I brought in this texture. We'll add a flagstone effect. We'll add a rough stone texture to it. And now we'll add some grunge. So it's a lot of fun to play around with combining different settings to see what you can get. Oh, I want to show you how you can also use multiple textures via drag and drop. Here I've got a bunch of different tiles to make like a mosaic effect. I'm going to drag them all in here. And let's set the iterations back to 4, okay, because we're making a 4x4 tile. So, they're randomly assigned. Here I got several repeats, so I'm going to regenerate that. So, by combining all these settings, you can turn even like a flat, boring gray color into an interesting tile. And when you've got something you like, let's say I like this one, I want to save it to my hard drive. I just click on the green Save button and give it a name. Gray flagstones. And save. And they'll be kept in a folder in your TileForge folder called Exported Floors. And here's the file I just saved. That's actual resolution. And now let's bring it all together by importing that floor we made into our layout. Let's say add a 4x4 layout. Click on Select Textures. And I'm going to bring in the floor we made. Just drag and drop. We can use this for the ground solid layer. This for the walls. Now this is meant to be an underground dungeon, so I don't like the shadow that the walls are casting into the ground. I'm going to turn that off by selecting that it's underground. So now we don't have the shadow bleeding into the ground. This is the other part that I added. You can customize grunge for any particular tile layout. And you can shift click these as before to add extra grime. I like that. Click on Done. And you've got your whole tile set ready to go. So that's it for this walkthrough. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a lot of fun playing with all the controls to make some unique floor tiles, and that you get a lot of use out of this. Thanks for watching.